Hello, good day. I am Algin Orcahada. The topic that was assigned to me is all about the Global Filipino. Global Filipino, diverse, productive, multicultural citizens, which in effect establishes a unified overseas Filipino citizenry for Philippine economic welfare and global cultural capital. So, in today's era, every Filipino lives are already side and affected by globalization and its processes. So Filipino can be very good in adapting changes. We are global Filipinos because we easily adapt to the environment that we are in and tend to prioritize what is an reason why we are in this type of situation, and we work hard to achieve our goals in life. That is why foreign companies and business owners tend to like us and Filipinos for the available jobs. So global Filipinos includes the documented and undocumented of permanent residents of another country, former Filipinos who announced but subsequently reacquired Filipino. So in the aspect of Philippines economy, it depends largely on incomes with global connections. The four sources of Philippine economy are migrant labor, business process outsourcing, exports, and tourism. Migrant labor. The term migrant is an umbrella term which means it applies to people who have moved away from their place of usual residence of any duration for any reason from the word labor, which means work. So, what is migrant labor? Migrant labor is a movement of persons from one state to another or within their own country of residence for the purpose of employment. In 2015, the Department of Labor and Employment reported that the number of Filipinos leaving the country to work overseas rose from 4,018 in 2010 to 6,092 in 2015, a 51% increase in the span of 5 years. So Filipinos have made remarkable presence in the global scale. The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration reported that as of December 2013, the total population of the Filipinos who worked and resided in other parts of the globe has reached whopping 10,238. In 2019, there were 169 million international migrant workers in the world, and they could constituted 4.9% of the global labor foreign the nation countries. In 2016, there were 2.4 million Filipinos living and working outside of the country, according to the Philippine Statistical Authority. An article by Rappler published a report that OFWs sent back 25.8 billion in 2015, roughly 8.5% of the country's gross domestic product. So there were globally more people than ever seek better lives outside their home countries. There were 10 million Filipinos live abroad, and more than 1 million Filipino leave the country each year to work abroad. Remittance to the Philippines from around the world continue to grow. Business process outsourcing is a business practice in which an organization contracts with an external service provider to perform essential business foundation or tasks. So it is a sourcing of that outsourcing that involves the contracting of the operations and responsibilities of a specific business process to a third party service provider. So, for example, is this a Coca-Cola? So, we all know that Coca-Cola is a goods that is scattered all over the world. So, it is no to a first ever no soft drinks in the entire world. So Philippines provide BPO for clients. So, according to a Ag Howley L 2017 and 2015, BPO operations yielded 24 billion combined. These two economic activities have flowed over 51 billion into countries' national coffers. Exports. The Philippines exports machinery, semiconductors, wood, cars, export crops and fruits, minerals, gold and copper, ships and vehicles to other Asian countries, Europe and North America. In 2016, these exports earned 56.3 billion. Out from all these export products, rice is the only left. The Philippines is the largest rice producers in the world, but the country is also one of the biggest importers. Rice as basic sample, so for today, Philippine total exports recorded $6.7 billion in September 2023. Tourism is the largest source of national income in the country, which reached about 6.5 billion by the end of 2016 according to World Bank. So, here in the Philippines, one of the best tourist spots is the Boracay. So, Boracay offers a variety of costs from local delicacies to international. The popular dishes included seafood, adobo, and halo-halo. For accommodations, Boracay has a range of options including luxury resort, hotels, and budget-friendly gift houses for entertainment option on the island include beach parties, water sports, and vibrant night. And overall, so those are the sources of Philippine income. Let's go back to the history. There has never been a time in a long life of the Philippines that existed in isolation from the Asian region as well as the world. History records have shown that communities in the archipelago were engaged in extensive and lucrative trade with other neighboring countries and most of Southeast Asian countries. China, and other countries in Asia in the pre-colonial era. So therefore, our country or the Philippines has never been isolated. So before we engage talaga, we engage in trades, we engage in business with other countries, especially the Southeast Asian countries, the China and all over the world. So before we under two empires, which is the Spain and the USA, but during the Cold War or starts a Cold War, we lined up or we sided with USA since during that time, duha lang ang ginakonsider na superpower. Kaya ang USA, USSR or the Soviet Union of Socialist Republics. However, our decision is to side with USA since if I'm not mistaken, we are colonial by Americans for over 48 years starting from 1998 to 1946. So, naadjud tay strong circle ties with them. Aside sa nakolonyal nila for long time, naka-influence pod sila sa decision kanang we have shared democratic practices them to military and economic support given by the US sa tuwa. So, ang atang alignment sa USA is kanang formalized by various treaties. For example, is katong Mutual Defense Treaty of 1951. So, that was signed in the Washington DC. Then, kana siya nga treaty nag-require sa both countries which is the USA and our country, the Philippines para muhatag og support if there is an event of armed attack. So if ever there is a party that the Philippines, then USA will support the Philippines to provide military assistance ana. So military troops and same pod sa USA sila pod ang in need then ang Philippine magtabang pod sa ilaha. Then so before I forgot, ang Cold War now I've mentioned earlier happened at the end of the Second World War in the 1945 up to the dissolution or the collapse of the USSR in 1991. So katong Cold War na hitabo na siya since there is a geopolitical tension and ideological struggle between USA and USSR. Then since kanang duha that time mauna sila ang giconsider as a superpower, so they compete for political, economic, and military dominance, and gitawag nato siya nga Cold War since there is no direct military con- direct military confrontation. So wala jay literal na kana nga war, and just like what I've mentioned earlier na ang war is nag-start 1945 to 1991, which is the collapse of Soviet Union. So there is a collapse Soviet Union since union siya. So socialist republics, which include made up 15 republics including the Russia, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, Tajikistan, Turkestan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Belarus, Estonia, Armenia, Lithuania, Moldova, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. Then kana nga collapse na siya sa maotong wala pod ang Cold War since 'di ba nag-away sa Cold War is ang USA ug ang USSR. So sa pagwala sa USSR nag-stop na pod ang sa pagwala sa USSR kay nag-stop na pod ang Cold War. Year 1960, the United States intervened in the Vietnam War. So, this Vietnam War took place in the Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam starting from November 1, 1995 up to April 30, 1975. So, bali, iyang duration is 20 years. So, kaning Vietnam War, naitabo ni siya since there is a struggle for Vietnamese independence. So, na-divide ang Vietnam into North and South Vietnam. So, the North Vietnam was led by Ho Chi Minh and Communist allies or Communist forces. However, ang South Vietnam is mauna siya ang gisuportahan sa USA na galing na intervent ang USA sa Vietnam War. So, nag-support sila sa South Vietnam. Ang kauban po nila ang anti-communist allies. So, nahitabo ang Vietnam War since gusto man sa North Vietnam good nga which led by Ho Chi Minh kanang ma-under ang both Vietnam into the communist control. So, however, the anti-communist man good ning South Vietnam, then anti-communist pod ang USA. So, mauna siyang mauna siya nga naadjud war or Vietnam War na ginatawag. However, nag-end lang man pod ang Vietnam War just like what I said, the fall of Saigon. So kana di ay Saigon, that is the capital city of South Vietnam. So by that time, na-captured pod na North Vietnam. So napildig jud ang South Vietnam and na-unite ra pod ang Vietnam to South Vietnam and North Vietnam into the communist control. The Philippines helped form the anti-communist regional body, the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization or SEATO. So kani siya nga SEATO is naghatag pod siya og support or benefit sa Philippines kay if there's a war pod mutabang pod tong 7 countries na involved or member ani nga organization. So, this is the logo of SEATO created by the American hegemon to contain the alleged spread of communism in the region. Even the informal economy of the country survived because of its regional and global connections. So, what do we mean by this phrase, contain the alleged spread of communism? So, a contain siya, which means i-isolate or i-corner within the existing body lang niya or within existing borders para di na ma-spread ang communism para ma-stop na siya within kana lang siya na place kung asa lang man na siya gina-adapt nga government. English is the largely spoken lingua franca in the countries. We all know that English po ang atong international language or mao pud na siya ang largely spoken lingua franca in the Philippines. So, mas daghan jud ang speak og English. The American popular culture remains the model of modernity and high social class. The 2014 Pew Research Center survey by Strokes B showed that 92% of Filipinos are pro-American. The example of American popular culture, A. Entertainment. So example of entertainment is the Hollywood and music. The first is the Hollywood. Here is the Hollywood. And this is the music. So the P is the sport. So example of the sports is the American football. And the second is the basketball. And the third is the baseball. However, the cultures imported the Philippines shores are not just American. The country has adopted Japanese, Korean, and even Mexican popular culture, notable in teenage boy and girl bands, K-pop, K-drama, J-pop, and J-drama, and etc., as well as various Mexican telenovelas, Marimar, Maria del Barrio, Rosalinda, and etc. Returning OFWs or migrant families who comes back to the country from abroad brings back various practices and customs of the countries they had been to. According to Yomeda Y 2019, Filipinas living or working in Japan alter their clothing styles to look and act more like Japanese. Aside from that, many Korean merchandise and fashion statements were already used and followed by many Filipinos in all ages. So, similarly, the influence of Korean merchandise and fashion statement and Filipinos reflect the impact of cultural globalization. For instance, the popularity of K-dramas and K-pop has led to the adoptions of Korean beauty products, fashion trends, and even language expressions among Filipinos, showcasing the cross-cultural exchange between nation and intents. These examples highlight how individuals absorb and integrate aspects of foreign cultures into their own, shaping a diverse and interconnected global cultural landscape. Diaspora. Diaspora is a group of people who share a common heritage or culture but live outside of their traditional homeland. There is a greater attempt to preserve Filipino culture. Filipino American artists, for example, have revived the use of the kolintang, an instrument associated with the Moros of Mindanao. Here is the example of kolintang. Kolintang refers to a traditional musical instrument consisting of a set of graduated bronze or brass gongs arranged horizontally on a rack, played by striking the bosses with wooden mallets. It's considered a key part of the Moro people's music heritage, particularly in the southern Philippines regions of Mindanao and Sulu. Filipinos really have very little choice but to accept this globalized state as a country and a people. Globalization's impact has admittedly been uneven and often does not benefit most Filipinos. Yet, there is some movement. There is progress when the Philippines at the end of the 20th century is analyzed. And the part of that is because, right or wrong, Philippine political leaders decided to open up the country to the world. The next step now is to make sure that the imbalance from globalization's benefits is corrected to allow more Filipinos to live a better life.